Nigeria's election management body, INEC, is currently enmeshed in several legal battles to justify its rationale for deregistering 74 political parties in the country. Before last year's general election, many of the affected parties had tried to build up cohesion through alliances that could give them momentum. However, many of them could not make it. Olufunke Awolowo is a granddaughter of one of Nigeria's founding fathers, Chief Obafemi Awolowo. She aspired to run for president on the platform of the Third Force Party, the People's Trust. The legal studies graduate from the University of North London, who is also the chairperson of the national tactical team of Nigeria's intervention movement, now joins us to take a look at a few issues on the front burner of national discourse. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Great to have you. Let's start by asking you, you have been watching keenly. You attempted to change things by joining that political party and running for the #1 job in Nigeria, to be the president.
That's right.
How has that been for you? That whole journey.
The experience. It's
Yes.
a new experience in the sense that it's something I've never done before, but looking at my background, it's always been there. Because my grandfather was very much involved since the 60s in politics, and he also ran under the UPN, and I was very much around him then. So yes, indeed, something stayed with me, which I wanted to express through the People's Trust Party. And we had issues. There were many of us within the party that wanted to lead, and I just saw then Mr. Olawepo, who had a greater profile of Nigerian involvement, and I just stepped down for him. And the party, we went all through the elections, but the way the elections went, they were not so credible. So that's where we are now. We're trying to build on, continue to work till we get there, and that's the voyage we're on.
And why the choice of one of the smaller political parties as opposed to making a bigger splash with one of the more well-known parties, if you will?
Well, you have to look at, it's not about the bigness of the party. Are they in sync with what you believe in? And it's appeared that we actually started from the Third Force movement, which was looking at the two parties, and we were saying, no, this is not good enough. So we moved into our own parties where we wanted to resist the things on ground. And, that takes a lot of building. You don't start large with such things. So that's where we're at again. We're building, we're sharing, we're resisting certain anomalies in the society. And you don't do that with the parties on ground. That's my belief.
Great. There's a lot of conversation ongoing now on the continent and beyond about women's participation in politics and governance. We've seen an increasing number of women on the continent. For instance, in Ethiopia, we have a gender equality, gender-balanced parliament, and a lot of East African countries also have that. Yet Nigeria, one of the biggest economies, economy on the continent, the largest black population, still struggles with a very little percentage of women. All you have to do is look at the National Assembly or the appointments of Mr. President himself.
Yes.
But there you were, you had to step down for a man. Would you say that Nigeria is coming of age to even think in that direction? Are we thinking in that direction? Why is it so difficult to get more women participating in politics and governance?
Yes, the first step is actually the onus is on the women themselves. Do women really want to leave the home front and get involved in politics? I think for a long time, women, even highly professional women, were, gladly, like I did, step down and all that. But now there's a need that I see that a lot of these men have failed us. And it takes a lot of people, it takes women who believe in the future of Nigeria. We're bringing up sons and all that, and we're telling them the right things to do. But at the same time, the first display of responsibility should be your involvement. And that's where what we are believing in now. Look at America, for example. Mrs. Clinton, she failed because actually America was not ready.
They don't look like they're still ready when you look at the candidates.
So you see, yes, we have this tradition of allowing men to, be in front. But what we are seeing in Nigeria is that the men have failed us. And so we have to, the women, the mothers of the nation, the wives, they have to, like what Hillary did, step in and fight it through, you know, not just show yourself as a display, but actually fight it through, because we want a nation that is good for our children to live in. We are being futuristic when we get involved. And I'm speaking to the women right now, we should get involved and build our nation.
Now, piggybacking off Adesuwa's point, because you mentioned American politics, and of course we know what happened with Hillary Clinton,
yes.
but that is so far afield. Let's look at the continent. We have countries like Malawi with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and you've got President Joyce Banda. Why can other African nations do it? Why are they prepared for it, for a female president, and yet we're not?
Well, I think it's a psyche. There's, you know, like I said, the mental state of the people. We have to be ready for these women to get into this position. Yes, we have women, high-powered women in different positions, but you see, even the terrain of politics does not really, you know, for example, in Lagos State, I did a bit of politics, and you see the women in the local level, they're not there. You know, so really, it's an appeal. It's something that we need to encourage. We need to pull them out of their comfort zones. Why are we pulling them out of the comfort zone? Because what we are giving to the men, they're not meeting up. And, you know, that calls for an alternative, and that means the women must come out. Yes, there's a mental state. Yes, it's, you know, I spoke of Africa. Even in the African nations, some people will say that the women have not made so much of that position. You know, that's debatable. But you see, in the absence of what we see today, you know, presently, what we see presently is that the men, we see a lot of corruption in Nigeria. Women, I want to say, us women, we are not so corrupt, because you see, at the end of the day, you are futuristic. You are thinking of the world you want to leave to the next generation, which I don't think is so apparent with the men. So you see, we women, we must take the thrust. In Nigeria, we must get involved. There were many, actually, I think the last election, there were like 5 women presidential candidates, which is a big step. You know, and if we continually encourage them, like people like Obi, to come out and speak. Where did Obi start from? Excuse me. It was with the Chibok girls scenario. And you see, even though everybody made fun of President Jonathan's wife, she was the only one that made an emotional cry, you know, and all that. God help us in this country. And these are things that women will feel. Women are being killed. You know, Leah Sharub, look at what she went through. Now she's pregnant out of her own will.
We have unfortunately run out of time. I mean, we could speak with you about this all day long. But thank you very much for joining us, Olufunke Awolowo.